You are now tuned in to the Project 365 experience.
So one thing I always wanted to ask you, okay, why is it that you smile all the time? Not that it's a bad thing, but why?
People say, "Oh, you always got a smile on your face." I mean, I guess it's natural because it's something that happens subconsciously. So I guess it's a good thing. A lot of the time, most of the times when I see you, I'm in the gym, so normally pretty happy, right? So that's probably, I guess that's the short answer because I've never really thought about it, but it's definitely good to hear. It's definitely better for people to see you smiling than frowning or something else.
For sure. The joy is something that we need to spread a little bit more in the world.
No, exactly.
Awesome to be joined today on the podcast by Mike Simonetta, who is an NBA agent, right? At Life Sport Agency. Mike, thank you for taking the time. I know you're a very busy guy. I know you're traveling all over the place. I keeping up with you on social media. It's amazing to see, my friend.
No, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. And likewise, man, always appreciate what you do and follow it closely. So it's good to get together.
Amazing. I wanna dive in straight and just ask, like, man, this journey has taken you so many different places. And like for people who don't know, like you mentioned before, Mike genuinely loves basketball. And like see you in the gym and like you're genuinely there all the time and just like watching and talking and like where did that love for like the game like first start?
That's a well, one. I appreciate you recognizing that. I think from young, man, like I grew up in Toronto. Obviously, from pretty much as early as I can remember, loved all sports.
Mm,
As I got into my teenage years, kind of gravitated towards basketball. Just obviously love playing the game. Love the relationships that came with it. Love the community, the lifestyle.
yep.
Really just fell in love with it. And as I got older, always loved playing, but was really, really interested, even from a young age, like 14, 15, in kind of the business and the management side of the sport. And really became fascinated in learning that. And just, obviously as a young kid, just learning about the past, around the game. There was something at the time in Toronto and Canada that there really weren't too many, people or pathways yet. Obviously the game was growing so much from players, doing amazing things in the NBA, NCAA overseas. And then always thought, as much as I wanted to play, my dream was always creating a similar pathway in terms of, helping players or being around the game at the highest level, but kind of off the court. So that's kind of where it started.
Mm. I had the amazing pleasure to have Stacy Leewood on episode 8. And so you're
Mm-hmm.
my second agent that I got on. And I'm very
Very nice.
fascinated by what it is that you guys do, how you guys are able to just not only help the players, but help the families and everything. So talk to me a little bit about the process of like
Mm-hmm.
when, like you said, you grew up in the gyms and everybody's process is different. But I want to know yours.
Mm-hmm.
Like when did you like it start clicking? You'd be like, you know what? Like, yeah, I wanna do this.
Yeah, no, for sure. Looking back on it, kind of as I said, from a young age, was really, really interested in the business side of the sport. Grew up playing, played at Western University. When I was playing at Western, really at that point started, in the summertime and even during the year, getting involved in just as much as I could, in terms of helping coach AAU, helping with player development, really any volunteer opportunity, Team Ontario, Team Canada, being at national team camps, provincial camps, obviously any AU tournament, going on the road, building
Mhm.
relationships with college coaches. Like there was so many opportunities, so many people that helped gave me a great pathway, just to meet people and be around. And someone when I was young was always like, anytime you have a chance to get in the gym or be around people, like always take it. So really, like when I was in university, and then when I went to law school, and then obviously graduating law school, becoming a lawyer. Um, Really at that point, I had 5, 6, 7 years of, really good basketball experience in the Canadian community, at various different levels, from the youth level all the way up to the professional level, with Hamilton Honey Badgers, learning from great people there. Have great relationships with so many people, and kind of started thinking like, okay, how do I piece this all together where, how can I hopefully turn this into a career? And the agent side of things, I was always interested in the front office or the agency side of things, and ended up getting connected, through lots of different mentors and people that helped me out, with Tal Ramasar, who runs Life Sports Agency. He was representing Pascal Siakam, and at the time Paul Watson as well, who was on the Toronto Raptors. So obviously, he agency was based in LA, and kind of was looking to expand his footprint in Canada, and got connected and kind of felt that we had some similarly aligned values, and obviously had some relationships with some super talented, Canadian players.
Sure.
And then kind of, came together and had the opportunity to join the agency, and kind of from there, obviously been an amazing experience so far, and really grateful to be able to do it, on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of people kind of want to break into the business, right? And like, I like that we're highlighting this, because this kind of shows like there's so many different ways to impact the game, just help the game like evolve, but the way, and I want to highlight this, the way that Mike is, if people haven't met Mr. Simonetta, if people haven't met, it's very genuine, his approach. Like, it's very like, when I'm talking with somebody, I'm genuinely interested to know how you're doing. And then you're able to just communicate and hold that conversation. I find a lot of times, and it's easy for whether it's players, whether it's coaches, for when they see new people that want to come into the industry, it's easy for them to kind of like sniff out the disingenuous kind of like relationships and whatnot. I'm giving you credit because you do a really good job at just being who you are, and then who you are always like it plays out. So I want to ask you, what are some tips that you would potentially give somebody that would like to become an agent? What are some things that you got to tell them to first start? Be a part, like the education and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, man. That's
I told you, I'm giving you the shout out, man. People who don't know, people don't know.
No, I appreciate that. I think obviously, it's an interesting field because there's really no specific pathway or application process. You kind of have to meander and work your way into these type of opportunities, and in a lot of ways it's really overwhelming, even for myself, like being a young person. Even when I was finishing undergrad, obviously interested in a career in sports, and trying to even just visualize how you get to working for an NBA team, or becoming a NCAA college coach, or becoming an agent, or getting a job with brand and marketing sponsorships in sports. It's in a variety of sports related fields that are obviously very highly coveted positions. If you're a young person, you don't necessarily see how you get to those jobs, as opposed to maybe more traditional jobs that a lot of our peers have, in terms of being a teacher, or a doctor, in terms of how those processes work, or a banker, or working in sales. Like, for a lot of those jobs, there's a more defined path in terms of education, applying to those types of jobs, entry-level jobs, working your way up, major corporations. In a lot of instances, there's a little bit more clear of a pathway of that. So that was something I always personally spent a lot of time thinking of, is how do I create that pathway? And I get that question a lot, obviously, from young people or older, anyone who reaches out about the industry. I think there is really no one defined way. I think one thing I've learned is that there's a lot more qualified people than there are available jobs. So I think you have to, one, at the very least, the prerequisite has to be, you have to have the skill set in terms of the education, the personality, the work ethic, and then you have to find ways to differentiate yourself and be able to add value, where the people who are in those positions that could grant you access to those opportunities can see the value in bringing you on. So it is pretty abstract, but I think just putting in a lot of time, trusting yourself. Again, everyone has a different set of skills and personality, but I think trusting yourself, being genuine, being honest, and especially in the field we're in, like, it's a service industry, right? You're a representative of someone, and in a lot of cases you're helping craft and guide someone's lifelong dream. That's something you have to take very, very seriously, right?
Absolutely.
People get one chance to go on that path. So I think you want to be able to, if you're servicing someone or representing them, you want to say you did everything from a holistic viewpoint, in terms of resources, guidance, advocacy, to have them maximize what they can do with their dreams in their life.
I want to hit on that because, like you said, the service part, there's a lot of thankless nights in the business, you know what I mean? But again, like you said, like it's about giving so much. Like, I grew up, my dad always told me, like, before you even ask anything, like give 100 times.
Hmm.
Just give, and
Hmm.
then, potentially like ask, right?
Hmm.
And it's like you're highlighting this in just in a different way. And I think like that's so underrated. So I want to dive in and talk about the role of the agency, right?
Hmm.
So like you said, right now you are with Life Sport Agency, right?
Hmm.
Talk about the role of an agency. Like when somebody kind of like in a way connects with an agency, how can the agency help the agents and the players?
Yeah. No, for sure. I think really kind of I just touched on it's really helping, an individual understand their
Mhm.
goals. In many cases, obviously having a long and successful, professional NBA career, or professional career, overseas or in whatever sense is really putting every possible resource around them and really on a day-to-day basis and taking their, let's say, the president of the agency always asks, our prospective clients, like, what are your goals? What do you want to achieve? In 15
Mhm.
years now, what do you want to achieve? And then, it's always interesting to hear different people, different, individuals have different answers, right? And it's really taking those goals and those dreams and then reverse engineering a plan from day one, to help
Mhm.
those dreams become reality. And obviously you can't guarantee anything. And there's so many situational factors and factors that are out of everyone's control, but it's really controlling everything that we can control to put the best possible resources, um, and guidance around that person to help them, achieve what they want to achieve. A big part of it, obviously, is the transition in many cases to the NBA or to professional basketball. So a lot of times, obviously, a super talented player playing collegiately in the NCAA, getting to know him, understanding his goals, and then crafting a plan for not only his transition to the NBA, but from day one in the NBA, having a pathway to success and sustainability, in the league. Because that's I'm sure, even as we spoke at
Mhm.
different events, like it's really, really hard to make it. And it's exponentially harder to stay and have
Sure.
staying power, in the NBA.
Sure.
So that's something we spend a lot of time on, is just crafting these plans. And obviously there's so many different levels to it, from, obviously contract negotiation, representation, marketing endorsements, but also player development, just human development, like really understanding who a person is, understanding their game, understanding how they work, understanding working collaboratively with all the people that have supported them, that have gone to them to that point. I think a great advantage of being Canadian and having the opportunity to work with, several Canadian players along with American players is, especially with the Canadians, like you have a little bit of familiarity. A lot of the, the guys I've been
Mhm.
lucky to work with, like I've known them, you know, before I was an agent, before they were a player. And I think that adds a level of familiarity and trust, and which I think is helpful because, and the reality is, I know we were talking about, before we jumped on here, like in
Mhm.
terms of whether in these cases, someone who's projected to be a first round pick, you can have 30 to 40 different agencies or agents reaching out to you, right? And everyone's going to present something that,
Sweet. Sounds sweet.
sounds good, right? And, trust and relationships, those are built over time. And they're also, I'm a firm believer that your reputation should be strongly based on the testimonials or what are the results you produce for your current clients or your prior or your past clients, right? So I think that's a big way that we measure success is, what we've been able to do for our current clients. And I think it's a big way we market ourselves to prospective clients is we encourage them, speak to our current clients, speak to the families of our current clients. Because I think that's the biggest indicator of how we really operate.
Mhm. So talk to me about like how does like take me to school because like I literally don't know. So take me to school. How does a player decide to be represented by an agent, or how does an agent decide to represent a player? Is it a mutual, like we come together, hey, let's work together, or is somebody reaches out to the agency? Like, how does that work?
I think, in the business, it's extremely competitive. Like the type of clients, obviously, we're interested in working with. One, they're in many cases projected to be, high draft picks or have a high draft stock, or in some cases they're a veteran player who's might be making a change in his representation. Um, in a lot of cases, in almost 99.9% of the cases, it's the agency identifying a player that they believe, has tremendous potential. A lot of times doing
Mhm.
background work into what kind of character that player has, or in some cases, if you have a touch point to that player, familiarity with that player, or people that are, close to that player. That's how a lot of the relationships start originating. For instance, if someone's, players from Toronto, or, maybe you're friends with a college coach or a trainer that knows him and speaks highly of him, just where that interest starts building. A big thing for us, I think obviously talent as a player, but also character as a person, just working with good people. That's probably the biggest blessing where I've been super lucky, is everyone that I've worked with as a client, just really, really good people, really, really good, really, really, really good, people around them. I think that's super key for success. So really it's kind of identifying who you think can be really successful at the next level, starting to build that relationship. As I said, trust and relationships are built over time. They're not built over, one or two conversations or meetings. Just, one, following them closely, building an understanding of their game, who they are, so we can properly advocate for them when that time comes. And then really just laying out a plan for how we think we can help them, achieve the success they want to achieve.
Do you kind of in a way have input? This is so interesting to me, by the way. Do you sometimes have an input on, let's say you have a player that has the skill set, but maybe this player has to put on a bit more weight, right? Has to get stronger, maybe has to work on a specific skill and whatnot. Do you kind of like have, like, I'm gonna say, input in which trainers they should get, which person? Obviously the player has the choice about who they want to work with, right? But can you kind of like recommend certain things, or is that like something separate?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, ultimately, again, I'm a big believer you should never force any human being to do something they don't want to do. But I think at the same
Right.
time, if they're looking at us as expert counsel, to help them with what they want to achieve, the big part of our thing is putting the right resources around them, right? And strategically, maybe it's a few different options in each realm, right? Like if you look at all the elements of player development, from on-court player development to strength and conditioning, physiotherapy, biomechanics, sports science, making sure the body's moving right internally, externally, injury prevention, nutrition, sports psychology. Those are all elements that we take seriously, and that's all part of our development.
I'm gonna hit another one. Sorry to cut you off. I'm gonna hit another one. Financial advisor.
Absolutely, absolutely. So all those things, having a system, of checks and balances where, there's, financial planning, tax planning, investment planning, all those things we work on all those elements, we provide options and work with the best possible people in every single one of those avenues. It's almost like putting together like an elite sports or support service team, at every function, as I said, from financial to encore to, to fashion, to travel, anything that a client needs is everything that we provide. It's really 24/7, 360, whatever someone needs, that's our mandate, is to put the best around them.
So I checked out your resume, your bio, and everything. Like, as of right now, you are representing 9 clients. That's correct. So talk to me about the balance, like balancing 9 clients. If you guys are not keeping up with Michael Simonetta, like Simonetta is like at every gym, he's everywhere, right? So talk about the balance, like.
No, I mean, obviously, you're only, I think in this profession, you're only as good as, the clients you represent. And I think it's something we take very seriously. Nothing to take for granted. Like everyone that we're lucky to represent, like they're great people I enjoy being around, spending time with, people I really believe in, as players and as people. And it's really great. Like if you think about it, you could say it's busier, but like, or, it's a busy time, but really it's, it's a dream, really. Like it's something that I don't take for granted. Something that I think as an agent or as a representative, you kind of really have to be relentless and just always be proactive. Like, my mind is constantly kind of racing in terms of what does X client need? What does Y client need? What's coming up? What do we need to address? How can we get ahead of things? I think that's something you always have to your mind has to always be running, which I think is important, and just really getting in front of everything. And obviously stuff is going to happen, and there's some situations that you can't predict, and you have to be, just on the fly and react. But that's really what it is anything that comes up for a client, always being, on your toes and ready to deal with an issue, prevent an issue, improve a situation. It's really just constantly having your mind running, and being proactive about providing clients with everything they need. And then obviously just following them, supporting them, and empowering them. Like it's these guys are obviously many of them are in the spotlight, and there's in many cases a great amount of pressure. It's really, supporting them, empowering them, and always knowing that we have their backs.
2021.
Hmm.
Talk to me about the process. Getting this kid from Toronto to go play in the SEC. All right. Plays in the SEC. And then for him to become a lottery pick. Like, talk
Josh
about the
Primo.
process of helping for my guy, Josh Primo.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, started obviously knew Josh from when he was young and followed his career, and his dad did an amazing job of helping him develop, and his trainer David Tyndale, his sister Keisha, who played Division I basketball. Really, he had an amazing support system around him. Obviously, watching me at Alabama, and then really starting to have conversations, with his family, and even though he was at Alabama as he was one of the youngest players in the NCAA, 17 years old. He turned,
17.
reclassed, went to Alabama early and playing a key pivotal role on, really, really good Alabama team with a lot of veteran players like Javon Quinley, Herb Jones, John Petty, older guys who have been at Alabama. Just seeing the talent and the upside in terms of, and from watching him at Basketball Without Borders, watching him in high school, the talent, the upside, and really just, as I said, the president of the agency, Todd Ramasar, myself, everyone at the agency, speaking with him and really, not putting any ceiling on what he could do in that draft. Saying he was gonna, he was a potential lottery pick the year after, or a couple years after he needs to go back to Alabama. And really, our philosophy was to put really, really strong resources around him in the pre-draft to get, in the best shape of his life, feeling the best about his game, and really just also for us internally to have an understanding of his game, so then we could position him correctly with NBA teams. We're saying, hey, if you think this guy's a lottery pick in 2 years, he's really a steal now for you, where you can get him earlier, get him into your NBA development system and go from there. And then biggest credit, we always say, like, it's these guys who go out and earn it. They're the ones, Josh went out, he did everything he needed to do in the pre-draft process in terms of the combine, all his workouts, all his interviews. And he really, went out and got it. And that was a testament to him, all the work he put in, and it was obviously a great, great moment for him.
12th overall. That was crazy. I remember us watching it. We were watching it at it was because at that time it was the year after COVID, so it was a bit delayed, eh? It was like kind of in the middle of the summer.
Yeah, it was end of July.
And I remember watching it with kids at summer camp. We were running a summer camp at Orangeville, and I don't think people realize the magnitude, because when somebody, like, a lot of people, is like, believe it, you got to see it to believe it, right? And it's like when you see someone from your area just get to places, like, you don't even really realize it. And like, it's not just players, it's also for you too. Like, somebody like you who's able to help somebody, like, you don't know the next Toronto agent that may come out. You don't know, right? But then after, when that happens, there's like this little snowball effect where now there's even more people. And like you said, you're building trust and all that kind of stuff. And I'm from Montreal, so something crazy happened last summer. I don't know if you want to go into detail about it. Just saying.
Oh yeah, I assume, obviously, discussing another one of our obviously Canadian clients, O-Max Prosper. Again, a similar situation with just a tremendous young man, tremendous family. Again, two, his parents, amazing people, his sister, high level player in Notre Dame, just a great family. And then same thing, getting to know him, watching him at Marquette, and then getting to know his family, getting to know him, understanding his work ethic, his drive, his willpower, and then again, understanding his game. And as someone who was the fourth leading scorer, on a really, really good Marquette team, and then helping him, positioning him in the minds of NBA teams as someone, obviously, great physical tools, again, super high motor, excellent defender, and then really a ton of upside offensively as a someone who can knock down shots, who can attack closeouts, who finish well at the rim, who had great footwork. So all those skills, that was clear from watching Marquette. We knew that, we saw the vision for him. It was just then, and again, credit to him, he came in. Again, the common theme you'll hear is he, did everything in his power to maximize the pre-draft, worked like crazy, went out, killed the combine, did 17 NBA workouts, was traveling all over the country, and in every workout, shooting the ball at a high level, competing at a high level, defending at a high level, scoring at a high level, and then most impressively, really just leaving a lasting impression on front office in terms of interviews and the dinners and just the type of genuine person he was. And again, got drafted, 24th by the Dallas Mavericks, and obviously an amazing experience, being able, to see him walk across the stage and shake Adam Silver's hand, Again, a testament to him. You know, he went out and he earned it. It was all him. He went out and he did everything he needed to do, and obviously now in a great situation with Dallas in his rookie season. You know, again, putting in work and just carving out, you know, a really, really great role for himself. You know, obviously on a pretty exciting team there in Dallas.
For sure. It, like you said, the common theme that's coming out now is the pre-draft, right? So like for people who may not know, actually there's two things I would like for you to clarify, right? So just I would like for you to clarify the difference when somebody becomes a lottery pick. Somebody's a lottery pick or no, just kind of for you to educate, but and also don't be afraid to go into detail about it, right? Lottery pick, and also like how is the pre-draft like overall? What is a day in somebody that is, let's say, going through the pre-draft workouts and dinners and all that?
No, essentially a lottery pick is just, you know, pick all the teams that don't make the playoffs. And obviously sometimes those picks get traded. But essentially picks 1 through 14, that's a lottery. So at the combine every year, the teams who haven't made the playoffs, who are in that lottery, there'll be a draw. You probably saw it this year with the Spurs, you know, winning the lottery and then going on to draft Victor Wembanyama. But that's essentially it. There's a lottery every year in May in Chicago at the combine, and that determines the draft status or the draft order for picks 1 through 14. And again, some of those picks are traded, or there's different stipulations in place. Like sometimes the pick will be traded, you know, if it's outside the top 10, or, you know, you'll hear things like a top 5 protected or a top 6 protected pick. That means if, you know, once the lottery happens, you know, if the pick falls to 8, then that team keeps the pick, or sorry, gives the pick away. Whereas if it was, you know, drawn at pick 6, the team would keep it. Just stuff like that. And obviously picks 15 through 30 are the teams that make the playoffs, and then they're ordered based on their records and how they finish. And then in terms of the pre-draft process, it's obviously a huge part of something that as representatives we can help guide our players for their transition from, you know, college, or nowadays obviously different paths, so it's overtime or G League Ignite or internationally. But essentially players will, you know, do the pre-draft really is from the end of their, you know, traditionally the end of their college season, so really the beginning of April after the Final Four, all the way up until the draft. So the draft's obviously end of June. A lot of cases, an agency will bring, you know, we have an extensive pre-draft program we'll put together, kind of stuff I mentioned before in terms of on-court player development, off-court, strength and conditioning, physio, medical, sports science, all that stuff. We put together a comprehensive, you know, uniquely tailored plan for each client. So and really in the hopes of getting them in the best shape of their life and feeling the best about their game that they've ever felt. A lot of our clients obviously will have already be on the radars of NBA teams, but for us, a big part of our job is during that time is, you know, communicating with teams, understanding feedback of where they may stand. Currently, I'm sure everyone who's listening to this, you know, is familiar with mock drafts and, you know, how popular those have become throughout the season. You know, understanding, getting a sense from NBA front offices where they stand, and then also developing a plan to help them move up in the draft to get them drafted, not only as high as possible, also to a team where a good fit, or if they're not going to be drafted, help them find, you know, potential to earn guaranteed money or an NBA two-way contract, or just be in a good situation where there's upward growth. You know, most guys will go to the combine in Chicago. There's the G League combine, and then the NBA combine. The G League combine is normally players rated, you know, 70 through 110. The best players from that G League combine in Chicago will move on to the NBA combine, which happens right afterwards, which is normally the top 75 prospects, you know, as voted on by NBA executives. From there, after that, which is the end of May, we'll have a pro day, in which case, which is an opportunity for us to control, you know, a workout where we can put on a workout by our trainers in our gym, where all 30 NBA teams will come and watch each player go through an individual workout. And then from there, you know, players will go, each team can bring players in, fly them into their respective market, put them through a workout, you know, athletic testing, psychological testing, interviews. So, you know, some players, depending on their draft stock, will do more workouts than others, but it's really going into those workouts, competing against other draft prospects, and then really going from there. And then obviously, as you know, us constantly in the background collecting feedback, helping position our guys, making sure teams are viewing them in the right light. You know, someone like O-Max, you know, in his case, speaking to teams and helping them understand the vision of what he could be as a high-level NBA player. You know, some teams said, oh, well, he didn't have the best shooting percentage. You know, in college, helping them understand why that might be, helping them assess his mechanics, helping paint a picture, of how those maybe perceived areas of improvement can turn into strengths.
Mhm.
And then again, as I mentioned, the best way for players to move up in the draft is they go into those workouts of the combine and really, show out and really back up everything that we're saying. In which case, we've been super lucky to have great talented players that we believed in, and then they go out and show everyone else, and then make everyone else believe in them.
I'm listening to you go, and it's okay, something I'm very fascinated about is, you're mentioning, for instance, we are just talking about O-Max, and you're saying like some teams didn't, for instance, take a chance on them because the numbers didn't fit like what they were looking for in a way, right? But does the workout change? Like, does the workout change depending on the team? You get what I'm saying? Like, for instance, if I'm say I'm the Lakers, right? And I need somebody to play off of LeBron. I want to draft somebody to play off of LeBron. Is my workout going to be more like spot up shots, or do they want to see my overall game?
Yeah, I mean, every workout can be different.
Everything is different. Okay.
Every workout can be different based on the team, based on the players that are in the workout. Again, based on what the team needs are, where they're drafting, how many picks they have. Teams might have, a pick in the first round early. They might have 2 second-round picks. They might, some teams like last year, I think Oklahoma City had 5 picks. Obviously, in many cases, they end up trading and moving around the draft. That's the other thing. Draft night trades. Teams might not have a pick, but they'll still bring guys in for a workout because they're interested in moving up. The Mavericks were an instance of that. They had the 10th overall pick, and then on draft night, they traded with Sacramento to get O-Max at 24 in the first round. So that's another. There's so many variables to it, which obviously is our job, is to make sure communicating with the teams and make sure if we're sending a player into a workout, that team is serious about evaluating them, and that we're having those discussions to say, okay, where would he fit within your organization, within your roster? What are the opportunities for him for growth? And how do you see him as a player? And making sure how that team sees them is aligned with how we believe in those discussions we've had with the player and their family of how they believe they can most succeed in the NBA.
Man, feeding us with all this great information. So I got a couple final questions for you. But first of all, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're probably going to be in a gym in a little bit. What is the most eye-opening thing that you were able to see, like being from Toronto? The difference between Toronto and like going into the US a little bit and all that kind of stuff. What is the most eye-opening thing that you've noticed?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know if it's eye-opening to me or you, but I think, maybe obviously I admit my bias being a Canadian, but I think, Canadian basketball is as strong, especially in Toronto, Montreal. It's as strong as anywhere in the world. I think our Canadian players, they can achieve anything. There's truly no ceiling on what we can achieve or what individual players can achieve, what our country can achieve, what our communities can achieve, basketball communities can achieve at any level, whether it's prep school, AAU, college basketball, and then I think at any point, Canadians can match up with anyone. And I think it's grown over the years, but I think that's really the way I put it is, I'll put Canadians up against anyone. And I think there's really no ceiling on what any of our young Canadian athletes can achieve, as we're seeing now with guys like Shea, Jamal Murray, and then some of these younger guys, like some of our clients, from Primo to Andrew Nemhard to O-Max Prosper. It's just really great to see them continue to push really there is no ceiling anymore, which I think is amazing. And now we're seeing obviously our Canadian team heading into the Olympics next year. It's just great to see.
What is the best investment you've made up until now in your career? Could be anything.
How do you mean investment? Like
investment, it could be maybe there's a specific time investment that you put into something. It could be maybe you bought something that helped you. Like, what is
I think you can never regret, investing time and care into your clients. Like it's been, it's amazing. If you ask, you kind of asked me about Primo or O-Max, or if there's other instances of other clients, we have from all the different clients, like you can go back and reflect and see all the time and see them, the work they put in and then the result. Like it's a really cool thing to see someone who you know is capable of something where other people may not yet be aware of that, and then see them go put the time in and then go prove it to everyone. Like I remember, when we signed Josh, people said, oh, he's he's a super talented player. He's going to need to go back to school. And then you say, I don't, watch him closely over the next few months. And then you see on draft night, you hear his name called 12th overall, right? Or O-Max, saying, hey, we think this kid could be a first round pick. We really think that. You're saying that in April, a team's like, and then you see, okay, and then he goes into the workout 3 weeks later, and then they're calling you, say, wow, we have to really look at this kid with, in the first round, right? So that's the coolest thing. That's the coolest investment, just seeing those guys go and earn it. That's where it's the coolest part of the job, I think.
Mike Simonetta, you are a gem. Like you're
I
just
appreciate it,
someone,
man.
you're just someone that's always a joy to be around, just in everything, So, keep doing what you're doing, man. I love keeping up with all the fun new adventures that you got going on, and sky's the limit for you, my friend. I
No,
appreciate
I
you taking
appreciate
the
it,
time.
man.
I know you're busy.
I appreciate everything you guys do in the community in Montreal, Orangeville, and it's the community as a whole. It's always great. So I appreciate it, man.
Mike Simonetta, NBA agent, Life Sport Agency. I'll catch you soon. I'll catch you in the gym at some point, my friend.
Yes, sir. Very soon. Have a good one, man.